Are you ready to fight like a champion, not just in the courtroom, but in every facet of your life? Welcome to the Legal Athlete Podcast. I'm Jess Sargus, your host, high-performance speaker, and coach for trial lawyers. With over 22 years as a trial attorney and legal exec, and an undefeated record as a former MMA fighter and boxer, I know what it takes to thrive in high-stakes environments. I also know that in both the courtroom and the cage, you're only as good as your wins. That's why I'm here to help you develop a fighter's mindset, discipline, and strategies so you can master your mental game and execute under pressure to win more and burn out less. Every week, I fuse insights from elite athletics, legal pros, and cutting-edge neuroscience and sports psychology to help you perform at your peak under pressure. So whether you're looking to reinvent your practice, your mindset, or your life, this is the podcast for you. It's time to become a legal athlete. Let's get it. Welcome back to the Legal Athlete Podcast. I'm your host, Jess Sargus, high-performance coach, speaker, and workshop leader, and lawyer turned MMA fighter on a mission to help highly motivated lawyers and professionals lead, work, live, and compete at their highest level. This week's show is a special show for my sisters-in-law, though the principles of the power of community are universal. See, tonight is Ladies' Night, as I'm here in New Orleans on the opening night of the Society of Women Trial Lawyers annual conference. This event and others where I've spent meaningful time connecting with other women has had me reflecting a lot on a truth that lives at the intersection of science, experience, and soul, and it's perfectly captured in the words of Audre Lorde. Caring for myself is not self-indulgence. It is self-preservation, and that is an act of political warfare. That quote stays with me, especially now, because when we talk about high performance, we can't just talk about pushing harder. We have to talk about when we've pushed too far or for too long, and about the difference between stretching and overextending. That's a difference that's both subtle and crucial for high performance, not just physically, but psychically and in terms of our mental and emotional health. The truth is, when we care for ourselves and protect our energy, we have the strength to care for our communities. And when we show up for each other in real, nourishing, and intentional ways, we unlock a different level of power, connection, and excellence. And that's why today we're talking about the science of tend and befriend, and how women gathering in community isn't just healing, it's high performance strategy. Let's get into it. Now, you've probably heard of the concept of fight or flight. It's a classic stress response model. When threat hits, the body gears up to fight or run. But back in 2000, psychologist Shelley Taylor and her team at UCLA asked a different question. What if that's not the whole story? Enter tend and befriend. This theory suggests that, especially for women, stress responses often activate caregiving behaviors, tending, and social bonding, befriending, not just aggression or withdrawal that you might see in fight or flight. Why is this? Evolutionary psychology. During the Pleistocene era, women needed strategies that protected themselves and their children. Fleeing alone just wasn't an option, but banding together was. And biologically, this impulse is driven by our favorite neurotransmitters, oxytocin, endorphins, and dopamine. These are neurochemicals that regulate bonding, trust, and calm. In other words, when we connect with others, especially in moments of stress, we don't just feel better emotionally. We physically down-regulate our stress response. We're literally protecting our health through that activity. So let's talk a little bit more about what this looks like in your nervous system. Social connection, especially with trusted women, triggers a biological cascade that soothes the sympathetic nervous system and the HPA axis, the two systems responsible for cortisol and stress reactivity. To dive a little deeper, the predominant stress model prior to the Tend and Befriend theory was just fight or flight. This is the activation of the sympathetic nervous system and the HPA axis we just talked about, the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis under stress. This leads to release of adrenaline or epinephrine and cortisol that prepares the body for immediate physical action, either confrontation, talking about fight, or escape, talking about flight. It's a high arousal, short-term survival response. In contrast, the Tend and Befriend theory that Dr. Taylor propounded shows that when women under stress support each other in community, engaging in social bonding and caregiving, oxytocin, the bonding hormone, and endogenous opioids and dopamine are released. These hormones and neurochemicals create a cascade that promotes calm, affiliation, and caregiving behaviors that support, in turn, long-term survival. In women, oxytocin's effects are further enhanced by estrogen, which may explain in part why this Tend and Befriend behavior has been reinforced more for women under stress than in men. But in short, while both systems of response to stressors are adaptive to handle stress, fight or flight increases physical readiness in the moment, whereas Tend and Befriend facilitates social cohesion and emotional regulation that really supports long-term survival, including health impacts like lowering cortisol and reducing inflammation, in addition to mental health and social support. So to translate that a little bit, when we're in community, especially in vulnerable, authentic connection, our bodies recover faster. Our inflammation lowers. Our immune system even gets a boost, and we perform better. Studies show that people with strong social networks have lower rates of depression, reduced cardiovascular disease risk, better cognitive functioning, and even longer lifespans. Think about the importance of community in all of the blue zone research. In fact, social isolation is as damaging to your health as smoking or obesity. This isn't fluff, this is hard science. And here's what's extra powerful. This isn't just about survival or performance, it's about leadership too. Women who actively connect and collaborate with other women are more likely to advance in leadership roles. We share resources, we amplify each other's voices. We create safer and more inclusive spaces to practice courage. This is why women-only gatherings, like the one I'm now in New Orleans, can feel so electric. It's not just a conference. It is a collective nervous system regulation. It's permission to show up as your whole self and be witnessed, challenged, supported, and seen. This kind of space doesn't just refuel us. It refines us. It superpowers us. And when women thrive together, we raise the whole bar for what powerful leadership and community looks and feels like. So, what can you do this week to tap into this powerful Tend and Befriend advantage? First, intentionally seek out female connection, not just for networking, but for real, restorative, and authentic bonding. Call a friend, meet a mentor, say yes to lunch with a colleague who gets you. Number 2, don't wait for burnout or crises to connect. Make community your prevention strategy, not just a recovery tool. If you're thinking of reaching out to someone, haven't talked with them in a while, this is your cue to do that. Just send a line, send a brief text, send a hello. Number 3, practice reciprocal support. Studies show that actually giving support can be as powerful as receiving it. So be generous with your presence. And finally, fourth, reframe connection as your high performance superfuel. This isn't about taking time off. It's about building yourself back stronger and supporting other women in doing the same. And here's what I want to leave you with. Overextending yourself is not the same as stretching yourself, and burning out for the sake of performance is not necessarily leadership. Caring for yourself is not selfish, it is self-preservation, and it's community preservation. See, that self-preservation is what gives you the strength to have the resources to also be there and care for your community, support other women in their high-performance journey and in their leadership, and to support those around you when the systems in place may fall short. That's revolutionary. That's where real change begins. The more we create space to tend and befriend, intentionally, authentically, the more energy we generate to lead, to perform, to rise, not just alone, but together. So, wherever in the world you are this week, I hope you make space for the people who recharge your nervous system, and for the women who remind you who you are, for the community that doesn't just see you, but celebrates and supports and advances you. Because when we gather in sisterhood, we don't just recover, we reignite. Thank you for joining me on the Legal Athlete Podcast. If you're ready to take your mental game to the next level, let's connect. Want me to speak to your group or team? Or are you ready for one-on-one trial fight camp coaching to perform at your best when it matters most? Reach out to me with a direct message on LinkedIn or through my website at thelegalathlete.com. Until next time, remember that the best version of yourself isn't some future version. It's the you who makes your daily choices. So make great ones. Make the ones that keep you on that champion fighter journey, building a record and a life you love.